My name is Ben Richards. I'm a retired Army officer. In 2007, my vehicle was struck by a suicide car bomb that left my crew and I with traumatic brain injuries. And a couple weeks later, we hit a second IED that gave us a second traumatic brain injury. And as a result of those IED strikes, I actually suffered some pretty substantial brain damage, even though both of the injuries were considered mild traumatic brain injuries. I was subsequently retired from the military as a major, and after 5 years of therapy and treatment of the best treatments available within the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs, I'd seen very little progress. In fact, the doctors were even beginning to talk about that my condition was degenerating. And at that point, I first learned about hyperbaric oxygen therapy when a group of veterans and retired military officers that I respected came to me and told me that they had learned about a new treatment that could really actually help traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder. In September 2012, I began hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And what hyperbaric oxygen therapy consisted of was getting into a pressurized tank while breathing 100% oxygen under increased pressure, in this case just 1.5 times normal atmospheric pressure. And to be honest, I was pretty skeptical at first. I had been through the best current treatments that the Army and the Department of Veterans Affairs had to offer, and had been told multiple times by doctors, this therapy works, this psychotherapy works, this medication works, and every time I had been disappointed. So when I started hyperbaric oxygen therapy, I was a little skeptical. And but after about 20 treatments, after 3 weeks, I was in a position where I just could no longer deny that the improvements that I was seeing were real and enduring. And it was incredible. For years, I had been suffering from chronic debilitating headaches, from chronic body pain, fatigue, cognitive problems, behavioral problems, all associated with traumatic brain injury. And at the 20 dive point, I started being able to sleep again for the first time in years. I was getting a good night's sleep. I started feeling emotions that I hadn't felt for years. I had gone years, I realized I had never been happy. I hadn't been happy for 5 years, and to wake up one day and just realize that you're smiling and you're happy, it really is difficult to explain to somebody who hadn't been through that experience before. Anyway, I ended up completing a total of 80 hyperbaric oxygen dives over a period of about 6 months. And we went back and we looked at my brain again. We had imaged my brain using several different types of modalities, and including SPECT imaging, which looks at the blood flow of the brain, which is a good indicator for brain metabolism, how well your brain is actually functioning. And after completing 80 hyperbaric dives, the improvement in the functional level of my brain, the brain function, was substantial and significant. And so we saw both in the imaging and in the symptoms that I was experiencing again. I got home to my family, and they were just amazed by the changes. My children, honestly, were using words like, miracle, or that it was just a completely different person. And I felt, after 5 years after coming home from war, that I had actually finally come home to my family, and for the first time since I had deployed to Iraq in 2006, that my children finally had a father again. And after I completed hyperbaric oxygen therapy, I was able to try another therapy called near-infrared light therapy, also known as low-level light therapy. And what this therapy consists of is wearing a transcranial light set that you place on your head that has red and near-infrared lights. And each of these lights affect the brain in different ways. They increase the metabolism of the mitochondria. They dilate the blood vessels and allow increased oxygen delivery at the most damaged parts of the brain. And they also signal a lot of the genes to start producing stem cells and cellular repair create, in animal models and studies, create angiogenesis, new blood vessels, and even in animal studies, create new brain tissue. And after using one of these sets for 20 treatments, continued to see even greater improvement in brain function and symptomatic improvement. And so 3 years after I began treatment with hyperbaric oxygen and urine-fed therapy, my life has completely changed. I'm not quite the person that I was before I deployed to Iraq. I still have some disabilities and I still have some residual challenges, but my life is completely different. I'm happy again. I have a purpose in society. I have a family that loves me and I can love them back. I can feel those positive emotions in life. I'm largely pain-free. I can think clearly, and people that I meet are surprised when they find out that I ever suffered a brain injury. And that's a testimony to how well these therapies can work for those of us with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder.